People, Deluded, I'm back again. Fridays equals Q&A days. Thank you very much for your questions. Like you see, I've got them printed off. I can't lie, I've been delaying recording this, people. I don't know if you lot know, but you know when you just delay something and you think it's going to do itself. I've just been staring at my computer and my desk and looking at myself like, DG, it's not going to do itself. You have to do it. And what can I say, people? Honest to God, the questions are appreciated. We've got a bunch of questions. I was having a quick browse as I was copy and pasting them, trying to prepare myself, and there's some very good questions. So thank you very much for your questions, whether you've asked a question for the first time or you're a repeat offender. I've seen many of these usernames continuously over the Q&As. If I've missed you out, no hard feelings. I've tried not to. Just get in the comments of this video, get in my communities tab, and just ask me a question, people. This can't continue without you lot. So let's start, man. Let's get into business. Where should we start, from the top or the bottom? Let's start from the top. Rochi RLs asks me, is Manchester United's style of play affecting Rashford's play and the reasons his performances aren't the best? Are they playing to his strengths? Well, it's a bit of both. There is no lack of playing style at Manchester United, so you could say that has a knock-on effect. Beyond just Rashford just not playing well, because I think his decision-making at times is appalling. It's like Arsenal to a fair degree. If we don't have an attacking sense of play, yes, you can critique the individuals, but if the manager or whatever has not put a real style of play to allow these players to thrive, how much really can they thrive and do the business? So I think not just for Rashford, I know Pogba's injured, but Rashford, Pogba, Martial, all of these players that have question marks individually, you can say because there's no real coaching attacking philosophy, how can they thrive? I think Rashford is isolated from Man United's performances. I feel, obviously, being when he was a young English teenager, scoring goals, the hype people got around it, people comparing him to Kylian Mbappe, and them same people that was praising him as the next this and that and the other are the same ones that are his harshest critics. At the end of the day, he's a young man, he's still developing. I think people forget that because he's played for United a decent amount of times in England, and that's testament to him. But at the end of the day, you're playing for England and Manchester United. Most people dream of. His dream was a reality. The thing that comes with that is the endless scrutiny. For me, Rashford, I think he's similar to Dele Alli in that Dele Alli will probably play as an 8 long term, but you don't really know his best role. He's a goal scoring midfielder at this moment in time. I feel short-term demands of his team might harm him, because you've seen Rashford play up front, you've seen him occupy the flanks and whatnot. And you don't really know, what is he? Is he a striker? Is he not a striker? You can argue, you can develop into a striker, but he's almost very unnatural in front of goal, and it's almost like he panics. I do think a lot of it is down to how much he wants to improve. For me, Rashford needs to be told, listen, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to miss chances, but you're going to score. He needs to find that clarity in his mind. I feel a lot of it is to do with coaching. I'm not saying Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's not doing it, but potentially Ole and Rashford, could you work together beyond what the team is doing in terms of training? Talking about having clarity when finishing chances, the right areas Rashford to take up, because he is very immature as a striker. He can play with his back to goal, but you don't really see Rashford hold a position. 1 minute he's on the right, then he's on the left, then he's through the middle, then he's dropping deep, and that's all good. But it's just, you're not in effective areas, and his decision making is appalling. I can't lie. I like Rashford a lot, but his decision making, and that comes down to the player. I can't understand. Sometimes you just need to put your foot through it. He's taking too long. Sometimes on the counter they're breaking down. A lot of it is because he's not playing. He's not having confidence. But I think the most part of it with Rashford is like a lot of these players, they just need to pull it out, people. And Rashford knows he needs to improve, and I think he'll come through it. But Maxwell's asked, big up yourself, General. Big up yourself too, Maxwell, man, my chargy. You've asked, do you think our midfield is stretched because we don't have proper fullbacks? For instance, when Kolasinac overlaps, I take him forever to come back into his position. Therefore, the midfield that is playing on his side has to come back wide to cover his position, which then leaves gaps in our midfield. I think you're right and wrong at the same time. Not wrong in that what you're saying is true. I just don't think it's down to the fullbacks. I think that's down to how we move as a team. You said the fullbacks leave space. Again, it comes down to them fullbacks to get back. It's about our midfield recognising these sort of things. If the fullbacks are being told by the manager to go, then potentially Emery needs to find a plan to make sure the defensive areas are occupied. But I do think it's down to the whole team. How many goals, or especially on the counter, have you seen that we potentially have stopped higher up the pitch with our strikers? We don't really move as a unit. So the gaps you see in overrun running midfield. I do think that's down to certain players just being immobile, but a lot of it is down to the coaching or lack of coaching that we're seeing to a fair degree. Adrian Jacobs asks, another consistent one. Thank you very much for your consistent support. You said, I have a question for your Friday Q&A. What would you consider a good season? And what players do you think could improve our team? Realistic and dream signings. Big up yourself. Well, I don't really know for names and stuff, but so I'm not going to get drawn up on that. But I would like Kai Havertz. In fact, I completely contradicted myself. I would like Kai Havertz. And if we can't do that, I want to create a midfielder. I'd like a box or midfielder whose strengths are breaking the lines and attacking situations. I would like a box-to-box midfielder personally. And the only name that's coming to mind, I don't actually think we need him like that. I'll take him because I think he's a quality player. But Zaha, that would be it to me, to be honest, in regards to the players. A good season, without a doubt, is top 4 via getting a Champions League place over 38 games in the Premier League for me. And the Europa League final, that's the best season we could potentially have. Beyond, obviously, you've got the domestic cups, the League Cup. It's not the most important, but we'd like to get to a final because we're still in it. We've got Liverpool. Obviously, Arsenal in the FA Cup, similar to United. We've got a big history. I would love to win the FA Cup. So, for a good season, would obviously be just Champions League. A very good season for me would be the Champions League and the Europa League. As in, we get the Champions League spot in the league and we get Europa League final and win that. Dream for me would be FA Cup, further getting ahead of United in that because we're not going to beat them on league titles. I like the FA Cup. I'd say FA Cup, I'd say Champions League qualification and Europa League. That would be a superb season for me. If that can happen, I'd love it too, but who knows, man. Moving on from your question, and thank you very much, Adrian. The real deal has said, do you think Pepe can develop under Emery? How do you rate him so far? Well, I'd give Pepe probably a 4 out of 10. I'd say a 5 for me personally, but a 4 because he hasn't really shown anything that he can do. I think he's shown glimpses. He's shown that he can take his man on. He's shown that he can be an exciting player. I don't think he's been terrible, but he's just been underwhelming. In regards to how, I don't know if Pepe can develop under Emery. I have to say, yes, he's at the club. Emery's a head coach, so coaching is a bigger aspect, whether that's defensively, whether that's tactical or individuals. Coaching is something we can't get around at this moment in time. So it's not just Pepe, but it's how Emery can develop him, how he can help Saka kick on to the next level, Martinelli and all of these guys. It's not an overnight process, but I don't know. I'd have to say yes because he's there. So hopefully that answers your question. Ty J's asked, do you think it's unlikely that Raul and Emery don't see Ozil in the starting lineup, in the starting 11, and are freezing him out to sell him and get his 350k off the wage bill? You've answered your own question clearly. They don't want him at the club, and for whatever reason, it might not be personal, it might just be professional. So I'd say yes. 14 Goulons asked, are you happy with Arsenal's style of play? I think we are lucky with our results at this moment, same as last year, and it can end the same as last year. We have an amazing front line, but in games we're nowhere near what we should have. And this is what I'm talking about. This is perspective, people, because this is what I hate about Arsenal fans or football fans in general. For me, you don't know me, I don't rant and rave. There are individuals that are almost on hippie crack, ridiculously happy, and there's people that are ridiculously negative. I don't like to talk about things that we shouldn't talk about, and I like to speak about things that we should, if that makes sense, people. We are playing good football in general. I mean, we're third. We're doing okay in that. We're playing third. We're third right now. We've taken advantage of United and Spurs. But like you said, there's no way around it. There's a lack of playing style. Yeah, we kept a clean sheet at the weekend, but they're still there. We've still not really been convincing in games. We've got away with it, like the Villa game. You look at the Aston Villa game where we won 3-2. There was games to a fair degree like that last season, like you said. For me, I always give the Cardiff example when we came back away from Cardiff, or the Fulham example. The thing is, when it rains, it pours. When the sun's out, people just want to shut up about, oh, we're third, why are you negative? Why are you talking about these things? When, like you saw last season with the last 8 or so games, when it rains, it pours, then people want to see it. I'm not to say I know more than anything, but I'll never forget, and it's actually helped me a lot with my Deluded thing. I was saying these same things about Emery on the Supporters Club and Arsenal Fan TV a few months of time ago, people. I was saying I give him a 5 out of 10 for these very same concerns. People saying, oh, how can you do that? We're on the top 4 with this, with that. I said, all right, cool. I was called this, that and the other. A few months later, I went over them comments and I saw how people's opinions were changing. I saw some of you lot that asked me questions. You lot know I'm a petty guy at times. Like, I just like, oh, Like, what are you saying now? And that's not to be right or wrong. I love my club, so I'm never going to say anything that I don't genuinely believe, and I'm always going to critically look at things. And it is concerning. We are scoring goals, but if we look at it and we're winning games and we're third, but on the other hand, it's October, people. Last time I checked, the Premier League don't finish in October, so there's that. Still allowing far too many shots on our target. Still not shooting enough as a team. There is still a lack of playing style and just fluidity in the team to allow our players to thrive. There's still a lot of question marks, people. There really is a lot of question marks. So I definitely agree with you, but I don't think it's all doom and gloom. But I don't think it's all La La Land, Disney World being happy and stuff. I think people need to look at what we're looking at. We have not really been convincing domestically this season. There's probably, I'll give it to our Spurs, we did all right. I guess United, you could say it's a respectable performance, but I wouldn't say there's been too many convincing games of such people, and I'm sure many of you will agree with me or disagree. That's what makes football football. But say for your question, 14, man, and that's really woken me up. Jordan's asked, considering all factors, injuries, timing of appointment, signings, etc., how do you rate Emery's time at Arsenal? I think he's been quite harshly treated considering the very low expectations when he came in. Maybe he's a victim of his own success. I think the term you're using, success, should be used subjectively, because what success? You could say there's many positives. We just missed out on top 4 by a point. We lost in the final. But the flip side of that is, do we look significantly better than his first year last season? Do we still see what he's trying to introduce? Are we actually better defensively than when he came and took over from Wenger? It is his squad now. He's been given last season, cool, it weren't his squad, it was this, that and the other. He's got his squad now. He's told Mustafi you can bust out, so he's the only one. He's been allowed to kind of reduce Ozil. He's been allowed to bring players in, and whether he directly was involved in asking for Pepe, a man that's 72 million has come in, Ceballos on loan, he brought in a centre-half. This is his squad now, people, and we still don't really see the identity. I see elements of being compact, elements of counter-attack, elements of changing and chopping, but we don't really know. We talk about being pragmatic. We have nowhere near the best defensive stats in the league. In fact, tell a lie, technically we do at this moment in time. Offensively, we're scoring goals, but is it the best fluid of play? So I'm not questioning you, my guy. We're all allowed opinions, and I do agree with you somewhat that people are being a bit harsh on Emery, but for me, I don't really agree with what you said in relation to victim of his own success, because what success? At the end of the day, the players, I do believe, as much as I'm speaking about Emery, the players have got away with murder, but we lost 4-1 in the final, we missed out by a point in the top 4, and the players really have to take blame for that. But at the same time, Emery did things last season. He's playing in a must-win, he's playing El Nene and players that weren't played at Palace at home. He messed the 8 games. You got to look at the last 8 games. Emery had as much to play in that as the players, so I'm not too sure on his own success and all of these things. I'm happy with him. I maintain I give him a 5 out of 10 so far. I like what I see. I like that he doesn't care about, like, you know how Wenger, you knew certain players were always going to play. I like that he doesn't care about opinions and stuff. You earn your spot and all of these sort of things. But at the same time, my concerns are I'm not really seeing a playing style. Even if he was a people say he's a defensive coach. Do we look good defensively? So how can you be a defensive coach? Do you get it, people? Away form is still concerning. Yes, we've taken a good sort of bit of form. But I say lack of playing style, lack of just looking convincingly defensively. Offensively, there's a lot to say. I still think midfield runners and opposition midfield runners is still a thing. Defensively, we're still looking shaky, and that was the big thing for me, because if you go back to my pre-season footage, people, I'm saying these same mistakes is happening. Yes, we've had injuries, but these same errors are happening, and to a degree, a lot of that is on the coach. If these players are still choosing to make the same decisions, the players have to take responsibility, but a lot of that's on the coach. So while I agree with you that he's been harshly treated in somewhat, I'm not too sure about a victim of his own success. But if that's what you feel, there's nothing I can take away from you. And I appreciate your question, my dude. A lot of Emery questions. Carnu's asked, I feel for one of the reasons we fail to play attractive football / beat teams by more than one goal is because our passing and movement can be very poor at times, especially when Premier League teams up there pressing against us. It makes me think we might not be working hard enough on our passing and movement in training and looking at other areas instead. Do you think we are struggling with our passing and movement? If so, what do you think the problem is? People, please try and keep your questions to one line, please. No, nothing to do with you. It's just that's a bit of a mouthful. I think you're right, my guy, man. There's a lack of movement for the man in front, and this is where I'm genuinely amazed nothing to do with Aubameyang, but I'm genuinely amazed how he's able to score 20 league goals for this club, because we don't play to his strengths. We don't play balls in behind. I do think it's a mixture of things. Going back to what I was saying in the previous question, a bit of it is Emery and his coaching, because he's telling these players what to do, and it doesn't look like we have a plan, in my opinion, beyond when Xhaka receives it off the centre halves, and then they look, it's all sideways passes. There's not really men in possession. Against Bournemouth, I saw that as well. Ceballos was the only one really trying to break the lines. Guendouzi's got his passing in, but how often is he allowed to try that? Torreira's got a passing in, but he's not been playing. And Xhaka's got a lot of liabilities, but he's got that pass. So I do think a lot of it is into coaching and what we're doing in terms of provoking these players to see a pass and do it. I do think it also comes down to players being brave. They have to listen to the manager's tactics, but I do see it when I'm at the games or on TV. There's certain, like Chambers against Bournemouth, he was down that right-hand side so many times, but it took us a while for players to be brave and knock it in behind him. So I'd say there's a lack of bravery at times. The movement is down to the coaching. There's barely any movement in front. If that's why I feel sorry for Aubameyang, because he's 9 times out of 10 it's him versus about 5 defenders, and the movement is dead. You look at Liverpool, it's not just about movement. It's not just about making movements for the ball. Think about it, Pete, my guy. If me and you are teammates, my man behind me, playmaker's about to play us in, and I look at myself and I'm saying, yo, listen, Carnew's in a better position than me. Let me make a run for this defender, because he's going to come with me. I've taken him out of the game without being involved necessarily in play. Do you get it? That allows you to exploit areas. I don't really see our players making them runs and taking people away and making runs just to pull the opposition. And a lot of that is down to coaching again. So I do think we do struggle a bit. And again, people will say, oh, but we've scored however many goals. Aubameyang's won Premier League Player of the Month, scoring, what, 5 in 6 or something like that. How can you say we don't score? And a lot of that's true, but I just say to you, use your eyes. Your eyes won't lie to you. So great question, my guy, but try to cut it down next time. Because do you know why? It's nothing to do with you. It's just sometimes when people do that, I struggle to really see where they're going with the question. So I thought I'd just highlight that. But THC's asked, in terms of squad depth and quality, which position in our squad fills you with most confidence? I'd say the strikers in Aubameyang and Lacazette. I mean, for obvious reasons. Aubameyang, 20 league goals minimum, 30 plus in all competitions. Lacazette, I believe he's good enough to be getting 20 league goals, and I really am questioning how he's not able to do that. But big games, he's up for it, and he's a good player. So I'd say them areas up front, and I'd say the wings, because just in terms of depth, I'm happy with all the options. I mean, you've got Pepe, Nelson, Saka and Martinelli. I'm comfortable with them options. So I'd say between up front and the flanks, to be fair. I was going to say fullback, but I don't really count, because I've got faith in Kieran Tierney, who I want to be our first choice left back. I'm not too sure for depth, and the right hand side applies to the same logic. I guess to force your question as well, I could say in goal, because I don't mind Martinez, and I think I do have question marks over Leno. I do think in an ideal world, if we had every role patterned up, and you know them ones, people, the squad is everything we need it to be, everything we've spoken about, and all the videos I've made in regards to us getting top 4 and beyond, it's there, innit? I do think if it was a thing like that, we might be looking at trying to get a better keeper than Leno. But I think Leno is calm, and I've got faith in Martinez to do his thing when called upon. So I'd say definitely up front, definitely the wide options. If you're pressing me to force it, I would say in goal. Not sure on centre half. I'm not really convinced with anyone. I like Chambers. He can be utilised. Holding, I loved Holding, as you lot know. I want him to play every game, but he's obviously still developing and still kind of naive. Saliba, I believe I'm going to be behind Saliba. I think he can develop into an incredible footballer, but he's still a young man. He'll be 19 when he comes to this club. He's going to have to learn harsh lessons within the Premier League. David Luiz on 2 games on the spin has been good, but David Luiz is David Luiz. Let's be honest, he's in good form, but if you really say he convinces you at centre-half, I have to say I think you're a liar, no disrespect. And you're always on edge, because you know that mistake could be there for as decent as he is. Socrates has been okay, was okay last season. I think he's very much deteriorated to a degree this season. You can still get back firing, and the last 2 games on the spin, he's been good. But just isolated away from them 2 games, I haven't really been convinced with Socrates this season. He's contracted until 2021. He might be someone to move on, especially if Upamecano rumours are confirmed, people. So to answer your question, THC, I'd say it's that. Michael's asked, how vital do you think midfield box-to-box players like Joe Willock can be in terms of freeing up Pepe? I'm not too sure how that correlates, my guy. What would free up our attackers is if we actually looked to really get an emphasis on a passing style and things like that. So I'm not too sure how much that correlates. If you mean attacking players or attacking mids, then that's a different story. But I wouldn't say directly correlates with freeing up Pepe, my guy. The only thing I can say is midfielders have to be brave, not just for Pepe, but for Aubameyang. You need to see a pass and clip it over the top, play it in behind. Obviously, balance and there's a time and a place, but I don't think players are brave enough at times here in terms of the passes consistently. Wagyu's asked, do you see Emery as our manager next season, or do you see Allegri as our man? Well, I can't say I see Allegri as our man because I don't know if Arsenal are planning to bring him in. He's not employed, so I can't speak on him. If Emery doesn't get top 4, then I don't think he'll be at this club. And I say that, I don't even believe that to a slight degree, because if he doesn't get it and they look at the project of when he first came in, were they always going to give him 3-4 years? So would the 2 seasons or season and a half be irrelevant? My gut is telling me he would actually be sacked or whatever if he doesn't get top 4. But my brain is telling me you have to be open to potentially he might stay. So I want Emery to get top 4, so I want him to clearly stay. But pardon me, I don't think he has a leg to stand on because money's been spent. You've been allowed to build your squad. You've been allowed to isolate players. I do think Raul Sanllehi will be looking at it and saying, yo, listen, if you don't get top 4, you're going. A part of me also feels to a degree is that Emery is seen as someone that was going to come here, add stability, shake a few tables in that you see with Ozil, you see with a couple of young players that were sold, really, not really emotionally in tune with it. Kind of pattern the squad and pull it in a relatively decent position, and then someone who's a bit more radical in their principles or whatever will take over. I do think Raul and them lot are looking for that successor, as they should, whether Emery's going to be here for 10 years or beyond. The minute their job is to forecast the future of Arsenal and put us in the best future, so they need to be looking at possible managers beyond Emery. So yeah, away from that, Truth 884 asks, would you ever consider playing for the Arsenal Fan TV, AFTV, better yet, team? Well, I've not had a call from Robbie. I mean, I think my agent's calling me right now. You know what? 300k a week. Say nothing. I'm there, innit? I'm there. Now, if they need a right back, why not, man? Couple games. Need to go do up some fitness and that. Got a bit of a belly, but why not, man? Class is permanent. I like to think I'm a decent right back. I like to think, in an ideal world, me and Hector Bellerin could be fighting it out for a spot. No, I'm joking. If the offer comes, then why not? But nobody's come through with it, man. So what can I say, man? Hit up AFTV, hit them up and ask the question, man. Nobody's asked me, so I can't do it. It's G Meadows asked, DG, what's your thoughts on Ozil? Do you think he's finished in this team? Well, I do think he could be utilised until at least January, purely because I believe every member of that 26 squad, even I wouldn't, but even Mustafi could and should be utilised. I think if you're judging Ozil, it's based on how he's been at this club, in your opinion, and not necessarily this season. I mean, Emery's allowed to take him out of the team if he doesn't think he's working hard enough, his commitment, all of these sort of things. But at the end of the day, if you just look at the minutes he's been on the field this season, he has looked alright. And actually, when he came off against Watford, it started to go down the pan. So again, it is personal between Emery. The club, it's personal between Ozil and Emery, clearly, because even them talking about the young players, that might be true, but it would hurt you as Ozil. I think as personal as that is, and they clearly don't see eye to eye, I think it's above them. I do think the club want to move Ozil on, and because the manager's not using him, it presses the matter even more. You're hearing he's put his house up for sale in London. If it was a thing where, I don't know, let's just say Wenger was here and Ozil's always playing, the subject, they might want to move him on and stuff, but it'd be a bit difficult to get it, my guy. So I do think Ozil is finished in regards to this club. I do think I'm just looking at the squad. I see him, Ceballos and Joe Willock, and I have never seen all three on the same pitch at the same time. I rarely see any of them complete 90 minutes. I do think there's an issue with Emery specifically, with creative players, away from Mesut Ozil and who Ozil is. If you just look at Ozil, Joe Willock's still young and developing, but again, it's either him, it's one of the three in Joe, Ozil and Ceballos. It's never all of them, or really and truly. There's always a handbrake. But if you look at how Ramsey was handled, Ramsey has some good games, but 1 minute he's playing and he's not. You had Ramsey, you've got Ozil, you've got Joe, you've got Ceballos. There's an issue in regards to how Emery integrates attacking players or how he sees them, because he always takes them off. He gets scared and takes them off. So I do think Ozil is finished in regards to this team, but he's still got a couple of years to have a decent end of his career. So we'll see what he's saying. Adams asked, I feel not utilising Lacazette and Aubameyang to the... I feel we are not utilising Lacazette and Aubameyang to their full potential at times. Aubameyang is wasted on the left. How can Emery fix this for the rest of the season? Well, Aubameyang is wasted on the flanks. I feel he's had some good games for us on the flanks. And don't get it twisted, for me, every day of the week, Aubameyang plays through the middle. But there are some games and certain factors, man just have to do a job for the team. So once in a blue moon, if Aubameyang has to do a job for the team, he has to do a job for the team. Do you get it? Obviously, he's wasted out wide. Again, it makes me rate him even more. As on top of him just being a bloody good goal scorer, he's been playing on the left. He gets a lack of service. I genuinely don't know how Aubameyang scores these goals in our team, my guy. So I do think Emery is not necessarily wrong to utilise Aubameyang from time to time on the flanks, but more often than not, he needs to play him through the middle. We previously seen Lacazette do out the wide job and whatnot. Obviously, Lacazette, in terms of a high line, in terms of pacing behind, he's not as quick as Aubameyang. That's probably why he goes through the middle and Aubameyang goes on the flank, sort of thing. If between the two, because Lacazette isn't going to do no blistering pace on the flanks and whatnot. It's a good problem to have, man. I think we need these problems, man. I think Emery's got a wealth of attacking options. He's got the creative players which we've spoken about. You've got Lacazette and Aubameyang. For me, 9 times out of 10 they should be starting. But you've got the option of using both of them and Pepe. The option of potentially a 4-4-2 and bringing in young Saka on the left, who doesn't deserve to be dropped. Pepe on the right. You've obviously got the option of going either or with the strikers. So different games, different factors, and football's a squad game. If I'm going into a game against Manchester City, for example, I might advocate playing Lacazette and Aubameyang, but it might be a thing where I need to think of, or it might be a cup clash where I think with another team where I think, what do we need to do? I might go Aubameyang up front, Pepe and Saka on the left, but I keep Nelson on the bench. Lacazette on the bench, because I might need to bring him on. Football's a squad duty, and I do think we're going to get to the point where some players might complain over game time, but we need these problems, man. We've got either or, like collectively, including the right and the left hand side, 4 very good options in terms of wide players, excluding Lacazette and Aubameyang, specifically Aubameyang, who's been utilised on the left. So we might as well say we've got 4.5 in the sense that Martinelli's been playing up front, but he's a left winger as well by trade. You've got him. You've got Saka, who's made that spot his own. On the right, you've got Pepe and Nelson. I say 0.4 because, like we just said, game to game, Aubameyang might have to do a job out there or be stationed out there. So I'd say just play. I don't know, man. It's a healthy problem. Potentially Aubameyang up front, Lacazette slightly behind him in a 9.5 role, support striker role, for having some wingers. But for me, the big problem is the pivot. It's the pivot. Because if you was to go 4-4-2, for example, or a variation of that, where it's like a 4-4-2, and then you tell Lacazette, you have Lacazette and Aubameyang, you tell Lacazette drop here and make it a 3 in midfield. It comes down to the pivot. How good is the pivot behind Lacazette? And I don't feel any of my pivots at Arsenal convince me wholeheartedly. Like Torreira and Guendouzi is my pivot if I'm the manager. But are any of them necessarily 100% convincing together? Well, you have to say no and be honest. So there's that, my guy, man. Papaya's asked, our squad is in danger of becoming bloated, so something has to give. If you have to guess, name one from each position who won't be here next season, apart from the obvious ones not wanted like Mustafi and Ozil. I mean, that's near enough impossible, my guy. But if I had to take a wild guess, I don't think Socrates will be here, you know. Something just tells me, this is my opinion, I just think Luiz or Socrates. Luiz has just come. I think Socrates might be one to go. I think Xhaka or Torreira, one of them will be one to go. So we'll just include them two and make it 3. I don't think Lacazette or Aubameyang should be sold, but I guess with their contracts, if one of them has not signed the deal or things change, you could say them one of them. We'd be making more problems for ourselves in that we need to look for a left back, but Kolasinac, if he becomes second fiddle and on top of just not really entirely convincing, and he is on good wages, do we look to move him on and use the resources in a better light? I don't know. Obviously, we've got many players on loan and these things, so there's no point speaking about them. I want him to stay, but I think potentially Maitland-Niles. He could be, if the thing where the right offer comes, maybe him. Potentially Nelson on loan. Potentially Emil Smith-Rowe on loan. Potentially Mavropanos on loan or permanent, because I think he needs to go and play football, man. He's looking alright in the 23s and 21s when they play in that cup competition, but it's just, yeah, he's better than that sort of thing. Moving on from that though, people, and Peter's asked, do you think Arsenal can keep up with City with 1 point behind? No, it's Manchester City, my guy. Marble Halls has asked, who are your top 10 strikers in the world? For me, in no order, is Kane, Aubameyang, Icardi, Lewandowski, Cavani, Suarez, Kylian Mbappe, Aguero, Messi and Ronaldo. Well, top 10 is a difficult one, but I think Lewandowski out of that list is probably the most underappreciated in not just goals, but what he's got technically as a footballer. So I'd say him. Obviously him, Kane, Messi, Ronaldo. Suarez hasn't been at it, but I think either Suarez or Griezmann's got to be there as well. Just Suarez for his movement, probably more Griezmann. Can I throw Neymar into that? If I can throw Neymar into that because he can play through the middle, I'd say him. And you've more or less listed the rest, my guy, man. Like, I can't. The only one I look at that list, I rate Icardi heavy, but he out of all nothing to do with him, but out of all the names you've listed, and I agree with them, Icardi is the only one I'm looking at and saying, can we potentially look at him and revise other people's cases, sort of thing. I do think there's a lot of great number 9s out here, but I do think if we go back off, like, I might be buzzing, but I'm sure the standard of number 9s was better. Excluding Messi and Ronaldo and the statistics and stuff, I'm sure on a broad basis there was more gunman number 9 strikers at a point, man. I could be wrong, but there's nothing really. I want to push my Lacazette agenda, but I can't. But yeah, man, good question, Marbles, man. And another one who's consistent in my views and watching my content. It's appreciated. I'm not just saying that, it really is appreciated from all of you lot, because at the end of the day, you've all got lives to live. You don't have to sit down and watch my videos or however much you listen to them. So people, I'm not just saying that, it warms my heart and it actually keeps me going in this YouTube thing, man, because I don't see what happens behind closed doors. But Dali Ben has asked, what midfielders should we go for in January in order to improve our weak midfield? Let's say Ozil leaves in the winter. Well, January is tough to do business, man, really tough. I would like Aouar of Lyon. Samore of Lille would be alright. He's contracted until 2020. It could be worth looking at that. But my mandate would just be find me a box-to-box midfielder or find me a creative midfielder. It's difficult to do business in Jan. Kyle's asked, like I said, sorry Kyle, missed out your question. If you could sign any 2 players in the world today for Arsenal, with money not being a factor, who would you sign? Kylian Mbappe and Neymar, my guy. If not, probably Raheem Sterling. I love that guy. But them lot. Or Varane. If I'm lying, I like Varane, but I'm not really feeling that. Let's say Dembele. Barcelona's. As you can tell, I like dribblers and stuff like that. I was about to swear, stuff like that. But yeah. Diabolical's asked, I knew it couldn't be a Q&A without you in here. I was thinking, where's your thing? You've asked, who are your favourite footballers growing up now? It's the obvious, man. I'm a 90s kid. Like, I was in the primary school in the 2000s, so for me, it's going to be Thierry, Bergkamp, it's going to be Vieira, it's going to be Perez, it's going to be Lomberg, it's going to be Ashley Cole, it's going to be these guys, Lauren, it's got Gilberto, it's going to be these sort of Arsenal players, people. Excluding Arsenal, R9, Robinho for his skills, just for that. Ronaldinho, come on. Kaká. I mean, I've watched Messi grow, so I can count. If I can include Messi, I've watched Messi literally grow. I'd say Raheem Sterling by that same logic, because he's the same age as me. I literally used to bunk off school and go watch his games at youth level, and I've seen him grow as well. I've seen him go from playing at under-17s World Cups to the first team. Steven Gerrard, I'd say you can't. I mean, giving homage to other clubs. I mean, Cristiano Ronaldo. I thought Van Nistelrooy was a very good finisher, and I liked to watch him, even though he played for the Pagans. Obviously, you got the Rooneys, you got the Rio Ferdinands. I was a big Sol Campbell fan. He played for the Scum, but I had a soft spot for Robbie Keane and Jermaine Defoe. Who else is there? You got to hail up Etu and Drogba. Trying to think back, man. Evra. Lee Dixon. Just I've watched so many Lee Dixon videos as a fullback trying to improve. Good question, man. You're really making me think about this one, man. David Beckham. I had the England top with David Beckham, and I feel the deep thing with Beckham is that he's become a brand now. People forget how good he was as a footballer, especially the younger days. Like through my work in production and whatnot, I've got to even see how good he was as a young player and whatnot. So I'd say them, to be honest. I feel like I'm missing out names, but Cafu, Roberto Carlos, David Villa. I feel he was a good finisher. Berbatov, if that counts. Anelka. Neymar, if that counts. I mean, I could sit here and say the Xavis and all the Xavi Alonso's, the Cesc Fabregases, especially Cesc as a teenager, ridiculous, man. But yeah, man, I think you really got me there, man. I think I've said bare names there, but I'm probably gonna miss out some. So thank you for that. Next question is Al-Haji's asked. Al-Haji, forgive me for saying your name wrong. What advice do you have for a player that the coach is not giving him much playing time? I think that's what you said. What advice do you have for a player that... Let's just change that question. What advice do you have for a player that is not receiving much playing time? Well, football's a game of opinions, and that's something I had problems with because I wouldn't say I was rated like the first name on the team sheet throughout my grassroots level, but I got to a point with all my managers that I might not be the first because you got them attacking players, but when you're looking at your defence, you need to slide me in or you need to put me on. So when I went to Wolverhampton Abbey, it was tough dealing with someone that's playing me as a left winger. I scored, but I'm a right back playing as a left winger and not really giving me the minutes I deserve or should want. I mean, even the players are saying, yo, have you seen our fullbacks? Why are you on the bench? And I had to deal with personal problems with coaches. He didn't get paid. But all I could do is say, keep your head up, man. It sounds cliche, but just keep your head up. Don't let him get you down because it's only going to harm your football. Just keep your head up. It sounds cliche, but try and make yourself so good he can't ignore. Try and utilise the little minutes you get and make sure he has to keep you on the team sheet. But while you're doing all of this, consider your options. And if it continues or it doesn't look like it's getting better, then I don't know what level you play at or if it's you asking me this, but can you get on the phone to your agent? Can you liaise with other clubs? Can you get a move sorted out? Can you have conversations that you're not happy with your playing time with your coach? So yeah. Jamal said, first of all, I want to congratulate you on your hard work and consistency and sharing your views on AFTV. Keep on going, DG. Thank you very much for your praise, man. You've said your question is though. My question for you is, with the experiment of Emery trying to implement a style of play and chopping and changing players in various positions for cup competition, do you feel Emery is playing the safest team he has available for Premier League matches than his strongest team? When I watch us in cup competitions, we look better off the ball, obviously, you put regardless of the opposition, and we press better. I would love to hear your analysis on the team. I feel you. I'd say many Arsenal fans, if we was to name our best team, it would probably be littered with attacking talents. Now, someone would probably miss out in that. For me, you go Pepe, Lacazette, Aubameyang. Saka's been informed, so you can't really drop him. But you go with that. You go with a midfield three, or for me, it's Torreira, Ceballos, and Guendouzi, and things like that. Emery might not deem that's the best balanced side. Obviously, the cup competitions are not. I don't want to say they're not important, but there's less emphasis. We're going to get through in the Europa League to the latter stages. The cup competitions, we've got Liverpool now, but we don't have to be at our best to play them. So it's a bit more. It could be a bit more Wenger in that you can go out there, do your thing. Young players want to impress the fans, and there's a little less of a handbrake. I do think when it comes to the Prem now, with the pressure, I do think he overthinks things, and I think that does come into it. I do think when we're chopping and changing the team, you kill any real fluidity you have in the lineup, any chemistry you are developing, and it's nice to see that we change up our teams and stuff, but you run the risk of becoming a tinker man. For me, I advocate freedom within a framework. For me, that means, for instance, I'm a 4-3-3 man. 4-3-3 is my default, but a couple games it might be 4-2-3-1, it might be 4-4-2, it might be variations of either or to get it. So I definitely agree with you, man. I wouldn't say he's not playing the strongest team, because it's hard to argue on these players that are going out there if they're the strongest team, because if they're not necessarily the biggest names, they've earned it on merit. But I definitely feel where you're coming from with that question, in that we could have a bit more of an attacking emphasis and implement a bit more of that cup competition style into our league, because it's almost like two different teams are playing essentially. It's like Haaland FC with all the young G's is better than Arsenal in terms of playing football. So that's a great question. Thank you for your praise and your question, Jamal, man. That's a very good thought-provoking one. JD's asked though, what's your inspiration in life, my guy? Simply to be a better man than I was yesterday. Like that's it, man. I can only try and be better than I was yesterday. I'm like everybody. Who doesn't want to... My motivation is just being better than I was yesterday. Proving to myself that, for me anyways, because I've always felt stupid at everything. I'm not going to lie. Like, I don't feel I'm good at anything apart from football. So this is giving me something to try and work with and prove something to myself. I just want to prove myself right, really, that I am a somebody. I can be a somebody. I'm not just a waste of space sort of thing, in which people have told me for a large period of my life that I am. So I'd say that, proving people wrong. I want to be there and do nice things for the very few people that have stood by me within my 24 years. And I'd say just being better than the man I was yesterday. I'm like every other you, like, from ends. Who doesn't want to put nice things on for their family? Who doesn't want to make someone's journey a bit easier? Who doesn't want financial freedom? Who doesn't, for me, bigger than all that, to wake up with the same enthusiasm on a Monday morning than going to bed on a Friday night, or when that 6 o'clock last shift comes on a Friday. That's it for me. It kills me when I can't watch youth games. It kills me that I don't have access to all these youth games. It kills me that I'm not earning a living. People, apologies for the technical difficulties. Like I was saying to answer your question, JD, in short, my inspiration in life is just simply to be better than I was yesterday, chase the impossible, and just constantly redevelop myself. That's all I'm big on, man. I believe the day you stop trying to do that as a human is the day you really stop living. I know many people are living, but how many people are alive? And it took me a while to kind of understand that. So hopefully that answers your thing. Tavin's asked, do you think we could see the best of Adama Traore if he gets consistent game time at Arsenal as a wing-back on the right-hand side? I assume you mean to bring him to Arsenal. I suppose it could be a role for him because he's got no end product. I mean, if he had end product, he would not be at Wolves. No disrespect to Wolves. He would be at Barcelona because he's physically strong. He can beat a man. If he had end product like Deluded, that's what separates you. Many players have got the skills, but if you haven't got the brain and the end product in the final third, you're not going to make it. Deluded wouldn't be at Watford and he wouldn't be at Wolves if they had them product. So you do have some truth to that. I don't think him and Arsenal are a thing though, so that's my input for that. Them Things is asked, could Kiddo Hart Taylor, or Kiddo Taylor Hart, I keep forgetting how you pronounce his name, no disrespect Kiddo. Could Kiddo Hart Taylor be the next Jadon Sancho? I know you don't like to compare players, but I mean his skill is very good. I like him a lot. He's getting physically stronger, so we'll see how it goes. But I believe Jadon Sancho is Jadon Sancho and Kiddo's Kiddo, man. Let's just let him develop, man. I think he's a good player, and that's all I'm going to answer. You can draw your own conclusions. If you believe he's the next Jadon Sancho, that's on you, my guy, and I can't take nothing away from you. But I'm just going to let him develop. Rico Suave has asked, How would fan expectations of new signings change if transfer fees were 100% undisclosed? Good question. I don't think it would change much though. I mean, it would change stuff because I get your thinking. If we didn't know Pepe was signed for 72 million, people might look at him with a different light. But I think then again, and I do think you're right on that, but then again, looking at it, how much would it change? Because if we signed Pepe and you're seeing the goals he scored for Lille and he's came to Arsenal now, his transfer fees irrelevant, like you said. Do I feel the same question marks would be there? Yes. I do think it would implore fans to have a bit more sensible approach to young players and players in general, and players just needing time to develop, and new players and all of these things. I do think it will kind of calm down with the expectation, because Van Dijk, at best you can only do what Van Dijk does. People just shut up about the 75 million because he's clearly a good player and he's slotted into the Liverpool team nicely. If you ask Van Dijk, does he believe he's worth 75 million? He said no. Pepe is not worth 72. Van Dijk is not worth 75. It's nothing to do with his ability. He's not worth 75. Griezmann's transfer fee weren't worth it at the time. Dembele's and Mbappe's. This has nothing to do with the players. They can't control the transfer fees. People see the fees and expect someone like Van Dijk to 100 tackles, 100% tackles, 100% clear. You know, like a FIFA thing where it's just ridiculous. It can't happen. So I do get you, man, but I wouldn't want that, man. I do like to know transfer fees and things like that. So I wouldn't advocate for that, but it's a good way to look at it, my guy, man. Big up yourself, Rico. Finally, Aussie Gooners asks, hey DG, how are you? I'm great, thank you for asking. People rarely ask that. Appreciate it. What is your most memorable moment so far under Unai Emery? Well, the wind is really trying to answer for me, but I would say any of the Spurs games. I'd say the draw against Liverpool. I'd say the goals we scored against Leicester and Fulham last season. I suppose getting the journey to the Europa League final with the Napoli and all the Valencia and that. Not really nothing past that, my guy, really and truly. There's not really anything past that. But hopefully Emery can create some more memories for the team and can help us compete and challenge for these sort of positive things that attribute memories and whatnot, man. But it's been a lovely Q&A, people. I don't have anything else to add or answer. I apologise for the technical difficulties and whatnot, but it's been a long one. These things happen. Please get in the comments with new questions. I can't ask myself any. Make sure you like, subscribe. Make sure you check out my podcast. Link is in the description. You don't need to be supporting that one because I'm trying to go heavy on that. Like I said, it's been appreciated that you've asked me these questions, but for now, people, DG, I've got a life. I'm going to get out of here. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. I'm out.